Tonight is the night the people in Ferguson and all over the nation have been waiting for. I think we all know the answer. I think the military-style buildup, the warnings to schools and businesses, I think that said the answer long ago. But we'll have the answer tonight. We'll talk about that and more right after this.
I think while I lie awake and contemplate tonight, wearing me out. Well, maybe tomorrow the world will wake and get it right, but I have my doubts. During the day, well, I design machines of war that scream through the sky. 'Cause I, for one, I like to go to bed free at night under these stars and stripes. And I have no doubt that we're coming out. Yes, I have my doubts, and I have my doubts that we'll make it back out. Yes, I have my doubts, but they'll wind you up and pull the cord until you're spun right out. And I don't understand. Roll the dice and raise the price to feed the machine's mouth. Call it the progress of man. And I have my doubt that we're coming out. Yes, I have my doubt. And I have my doubt that we'll make it back out. I have my doubts, so I'll drink my stuff and raise some hell and shoot my guns to the end of my time. You can have the booze and go to hell and take the guns, but I know they won't be mine. And I have my doubt that we're coming out. Yes, I have my doubt. And I have my doubt that we'll make it back out. Yes, I have my doubts. So we're all messed up and out of touch. Let's text someone who's in the other room. So no wonder why we don't say hi or know anyone. I might as well move to the moon. So maybe I'm wrong, but I hope that I'm wrong. So maybe I'm wrong, but I hope that I'm wrong. contemplate tonight wearing me out.
Revelation 13. And I stood upon the sand of the sea, and saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon his heads the name of blasphemy. And the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard, and his feet were as the feet of a bear, and his mouth as the mouth of a lion, and the dragon gave him his power, and his seat and great authority. And I saw one of his heads, as it were, wounded to death, and his deadly wound was healed. And all the world wondered after the beast, and they worshipped the dragon which gave power unto the beast, and they worshipped the beast, saying, Who is like unto the beast? Who is able to make war with him? And there was given unto him a mouth speaking great things and blasphemies, and power was given unto him to continue 42 months. And he opened his mouth in blasphemy against God, to blaspheme his name and his tabernacle, and them that dwell in heaven. And it was given unto him to make war with the saints, and to overcome them. And power was given him over all kindreds and tongues and nations. And all that dwell upon the earth shall worship him, whose names are not written in the book of life of the Lamb slain from the foundation of the world. If any man have an ear, let him hear. He that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. He that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword. Here is the patience and faith of the saints. And I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had 2 horns like a lamb, and he spake as a dragon. And he exerciseth all the power of the first beast before him, and causeth the earth and them which dwell therein to worship the first beast, whose deadly wound was healed. And he doeth great wonders, so that he maketh fire come down from heaven on the earth in the sight of men, and deceiveth them that dwell on the earth by the means of those miracles which he had power to do in the sight of the beast, saying to them that dwell on the earth that they should make an image to the beast, which had the wound by a sword, and did live. And he had power to give life unto the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak, and cause that as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. And he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand, or in their foreheads, and that no man might buy or sell, save he that had the mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name. Here is wisdom. Let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 666.
Good evening. It's November 24th, 2014. This is your host, Mike Callahan, and welcome to the Watchman News. Wow, I hope everybody had a good weekend, because I do believe it is going to get crazy from here. Wow. Well, I guess first off, I guess I could start out with a little bit of channel news and update you a little bit on the channel, what's going on, what we have accomplished. Earlier today, I made a quick announcement video, 5 minutes, some odd seconds long, that, that the grand jury had made a decision and whatnot. That was our 100th video, so this makes number 101. So I thought that was kind of a neat little achievement. And let's take you into the back end here for a quick second, and I'll show you where we're at. We're not getting rich. We're up to 146 subscribers. That is awesome. We're growing wonderful. I thank all of you. 11,152 views, total views at this point. That is just astonishing. I thank you all. And yay, our ads that we plague you with have got us to a grand total of $1.69. So maybe within a few years we might be able to make enough to get that check, huh? Again, it's just to be able to put a little bit back into the show. that's all it's for. That's all it's intended for. But I tell you what, I was remarkably surprised by the show I did Friday night. It's up to 511 views, and I just thought that was pretty amazing. So I thank you all. I wanted to update you on that. On to what's all going on. What I'm going to do tonight is I'm going to get the show done, and I'm probably going to get it done. I'm hoping to aim for maybe about 10 minutes early or so to be able to get the show done. And then what I'm going to do is the grand jury decision is going to be announced at 8 p.m. Central Time. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down in enough time that I can get everything set up to come back up and actually live stream the announcement decision. And then what I will probably do at that point, after they're done giving their speech, earlier today they already gave the "Don't Burn the Town Down" speeches. They started doing them, I believe, about 5:30. Yeah, that's what I call them, the "Don't Burn Down the Town" speech. And I'm just trying to make light of it because I have a feeling that we're in for some really rough times. And I do mean as a nation, not just those local to Ferguson, because as you well know, they have said they are going to have protests everywhere. And I'm not saying that the protesters are bad guys, not whatsoever. I see a lot more going on here than just what people have their right to do. So anyway, I figured I'd go back down after the announcement's made, and I will come back up and live stream. It's going to be a long night. I just got done making a pot of coffee, and I've got several live streams that I'm going to bring up and tile in so that you guys can see for yourself, and so that there's a recorded documentation on the Watchman news end as to the events as they unfold tonight. Hopefully the live streams will stay up. I do know that it would appear that they have allegedly been playing around with their cell phone jamming technology over this past week. So we'll see what we can see and do what we can do. So with that, I don't have a ton of news. Let's get suspicious observers out of the way. I do have some Ferguson news for you, and some news about the 12-year-old boy that was shot in Ohio, and a little bit more about Power Grid, and more dead bankers. You got to love the dead bankers, huh? All right, so let's get suspicious observers out of the way, and I will see you in just a moment. If I can get these things to quit popping up on my screen. There you go.
Good morning, folks. The lone solar eruption on the Earth-facing side of the sun the last day was partially an eruption of a plasma filament and partially the collapse of another. A small CME was produced during this event, but as you might imagine from its position on the limb, it's not heading in Earth's direction. Look to 6 o'clock UTC in the solar wind telemetry for a jolt to speed, temperature, and plasma density. We took a low-energy proton spike at that moment. We're jumping to ISWA to see the southern coronal holes complemented by one on the north. You should be able to see a touch of green where the fields emanate, indicating that it is a positive opening, but it's not enough to change the near-Earth space for mostly negative influence. Solar flaring remained low as we expect it to be for about 2 more weeks, but we likely have a sunspot peak today as the departing group still has a few hours on the disk and is joined by new groups visible north and south. The leading group incoming still has beta spread, but it's worth monitoring in the middle. Meanwhile, the cresting southern sunspots are bipolar with hints of mixing potential. We'll wait to see if the northern spots are flying solo or not. We've seen that Venus and Saturn are exiting opposite sides of SOHO's coronagraph, but the light incoming there is Mercury. It's set to conjoin the Sun on December 9th and ramp those flares. Let's take a peek at the Northeast Caribbean, where a Virgin Islands quake swarm has developed overnight. We constantly monitor such upticks here because history tells us to do so. Satellites reveal underground landslides over time that likely caused mega tsunamis that would run up the U.S. East Coast. We sure wouldn't want to see something like that again. Compare their proximity to the much more famous Canary Island tsunami risk, which would have to traverse the entire Atlantic before getting to the coastline. Other notable quakes of the day were mostly in the U.S., including 2 well above average for Oregon there. Also took 1 above average in the Middle East, Strait of Hormuz. Got an article linked from the NRAO on how our galaxy is a thief. It's a pretty good read. Let's quickly check in on the weather records, as the U.S. has been dominated by cold this month. But actually, according to these government records, cold has been dominating all year. Some of these really aren't even close. And it's not just the daily records, but in the monthly records as well. You can see how the numbers stack up even at the all-time records list, which is a bit more balanced to be sure. You can also pull up the global records, and yes, I've got this linked for you below as well. The global picture shows the balance of climate extremes, both hot and cold. Speaking of which, 24-hour temperature delta in the U.S. looks like this. Blame the central low as it pulls heat and moisture up the eastern convergence and drives down that frigid air at the backside. We've got storms and flood threats in the east, with more cold and snow coming behind the low when the system rolls through. Storms may be severe, so please take note of local warnings. Europe sees a low break from the Atlantic for the first time in weeks and is settling in there. The primary watch zones are for flooding and storms in that general area tonight. Down under, we'll set the precipitable water overlay on to show how the clashing air masses deliver the most precipitation in that area right there. We'll have some other weather watches with the water vapor overlay. Then we're at Helio Viewer for shots of our star to close. It's 6:20 a.m. Eastern Time, and that's the news. Eyes open, no fear. Be safe, everyone.
Thanks to Ben Davidson for another wonderful report. Normally I would tell you the link is down in the About tab, but since I was so prepared, I forgot to put it down there. But however, that gives you no better excuse to go to his YouTube channel and subscribe to it. I think it's very important information. It's something that I watch every single day, not just, I even watch it on the weekends. And by the way, I've seen people comment about not being able to find it. The O in observers is actually the number 0. So just keep that in mind. Okay, let's get on with the news. Let me get this paused so I can unmute that. Now, the first thing I got for you is something very odd. It struck me as peculiar, and the moment I even seen the headline, I made sure to save it for the show. Anonymous actually sat down with the Missouri KKK leader, Frank Ancona, if I'm pronouncing his name right. And it's about like a 3-minute video of a conversation they had, but it is very interesting nonetheless. It almost seems like the KKK took it upon themselves to back down very quickly, which in my opinion, just my opinion, was a pretty wise move to make. But that's just an opinion based on, let's just say, a little bit of knowledge. So without further ado, let's go ahead. I'll play that video for you and we will go from there.
This is Anonymous meeting with Frank, KKK, for KKK.
I don't know too much about Anonymous. I've learned a few things in the last few days about what y'all stand for. But one of the things that look like you guys stand for, you don't trust the mainstream media, right? You believe it's corrupt. So it looks like to me Anonymous kind of jumped on the story from the mainstream media. They put a headline out that said KKK is going to use lethal force against peaceful protesters. That's what the headline was. So they totally twisted around everything that was said. This is huge for them, the ratings. That's all it's about to them. So they took that headline, and instead of putting the message that was in the flyer out, it wouldn't have been exciting that way. So they had to twist it into, oh, the Klan's going to come down there and start shooting at peaceful protesters. Now, I mean, I'm sure if somebody starts, if I reached over and started strangling you, your buddies here would probably say, start pulling me up and try to stop me, right? You'd try to stop somebody from committing violence. That's exactly what we're about.
Are you promoting violence against violent protesters?
Definitely don't believe in promoting no violence. I think, why would we want to see innocent people getting hurt? And that's why I think a message needed to be sent to people that, hey, the people who are victims of this violence, they got a right to defend themselves too. You shouldn't, because there's people sitting there sending us messages, that are scared to come out of their houses. That, some of them are, probably more elderly type people. They're afraid, so they're afraid they're going to be a victim of this. Well, they've got a remedy under the Missouri law if someone comes at them with lethal force. I got a message just last night that there was carloads of guys going around doing street robberies on people. It seems to me like there's a really strong effort to try to destroy our organization because, even though I don't agree with you on certain issues, maybe I support your right to protest. I support that. That's freedom of speech.
All of you guys changed your profile pictures to "I am Darren Wilson." Is that meant to be a threat?
To show support for Darren Wilson. Right there. I know you all. You support, or you believe that Darren Wilson was in the wrong. I've come around to thinking that Darren Wilson might have been justified, but I still haven't seen the evidence. I'm still only hearing what the media, who I don't trust, and the government who's involved with them is leaking. So I still don't have enough, but I've heard from enough people who have grasp on what's going on to kind of form an opinion about it.
Do you have any plans at all to take up arms and come to Ferguson?
We've got people that live there who are going to defend their homes or their businesses. But we're not sending an army to Ferguson to come down there and start a bunch of trouble. In fact, nobody's even going to know we're there. I don't hide it. I got I'm wearing a KKK belt buckle. Normally I've got a shirt or something, but I say I don't hide it.
So there you have it. I'll tell you what, I played on the news when he was on MSNBC, and several nights ago, maybe that was on Friday night show, when he was on MSNBC and he done an interview with them, and he had quite a bit of a different tone. I think he probably felt a little safer in his surroundings when he was doing the interview for MSNBC than the safety that he felt when he did this particular interview. He was much more relaxed, much more toned down, much more understandable in his thoughts and his reasoning. I don't know if he took a little more time to think things over. Again, it was a different setting. I don't know. I'm not saying I support the KKK or anything like that, because I absolutely do not support any type of hate. But at least he was speaking with a somewhat level head in that interview, and in my opinion, it seemed like he was backing down to his previous statements from previous interviews. We'll see. I don't know. I think there was a lot of hype on this on purpose. I think the media hyped this up a lot on purpose because I think they're trying to spark something off as big as they can get, And so I think the media has been hyping up both sides of it, not just the KKK, but the protesters and, the police even. I'm sure that the media is probably even hyping up the police side of things. Like Frank said, ratings, that's a big part of it, but it goes deeper than that. This isn't just about ratings. When you got all the military vehicles, all the military equipment, all the money spent, it's not just hype. They are suspecting something, and I wouldn't go as far to say that they wouldn't be planning something. So let's go ahead and get on. There's a lot of great radio news broadcasters out there. I, by far, am nowhere near any of the greats. I'm just me. I try to bring a different light to things. I try to approach it with a different aspect, and I do think that a fresh aspect was needed. Although I haven't done a lot on the prepping end of things, I thought it was very important to include prepping as much in with the news as possible, because it doesn't matter how much knowledge you have about what's going on. If you don't have any knowledge on what to do, you're still in the same boat as those that don't even have knowledge as to what's going on. So anyway, Hawk did a radio show, and I'm not going to play the radio show because it's like an hour long or 45 minutes long. However, you are more than welcome. The link's in the About tab. 45 minutes, nope, it is an hour. Hour-long radio show. But I am going to read what they say here. Entire country to be shut down. Hawk, wild weasel time. U.S. military flowing into Ferguson area. Radio host Hawk warns immediately that it's getting real close to wild weasel time, and we better have our preparations in order as Barack Obama helps fulfill the New World Order. Is it only a coincidence that amnesty in America comes prior to the Ferguson decision and U.S. sheriffs warn of a gaping hole for terrorists to enter and a viral Ferguson leaflet urging protesters to take America, KKK, however you want to say that, you get it. If murdering pig walks, the same leaflet, see below photo, urges the entire country be brought to a halt. This message from John Moore via Dave Hodges warns Ferguson's Barnes Christian Hospital preparing for mass casualties. Hawk also warns that Wednesday night was a trial run in Ferguson as the hours ticked down to the real event. Students at St. Louis University were handed a communist leaflet as they walked between classes Wednesday afternoon that declared, if the murdering pig walks, America, sorry, I don't know how else to do it, must be brought to a halt. If the decision is announced at night, the next day should be a day of no business as usual at schools, the leaflet stated. Buildings on campus should be taken over. Classes should become teach-ins on police murder of black people. All this and more should be done. Hawk begins on fire before getting into his sources, confirming that U.S. military is flowing into the Ferguson area shortly after the 7-minute, 30-second mark. Language warning. So I'm giving you the same language warning. The link's down there. Feel free. It's an hour-long session. I've listened to the Hawk on many occasions. He does an excellent radio show. So there you have it. I thought this was an article I ran across. I thought it was important to share because I really do think that this is going to explode. So let's carry on with stuff going on in Ferguson. Now this is kind of related to what's going on, although a lot related to a lack of common sense. Woman allegedly kills herself with gun bought to prepare for Ferguson unrest. A woman appears to have accidentally fatally shot herself in the head with a gun bought to prepare for possible Ferguson-related unrest, according to sources briefed on the police investigation. The shooting occurred Friday night in downtown St. Louis, the city's Metropolitan Police Department said, in an area dominated by vacant lots beside a football stadium. The female victim, identified in a police report as Becca Campbell, 26, was a passenger in a car involved in an auto accident. Her 33-year-old boyfriend was driving, the sources told CNN. The boyfriend, who wasn't identified, told police that the couple had bought a gun because of fears of unrest related to the pending grand jury decision on the shooting of Michael Brown, the sources said. He told investigators that as they drove late Friday night, the victim waved a gun, jokingly, saying the couple were ready for Ferguson, the sources said. He ducked to get out of the way of the gun and accidentally rear-ended another car. He said the accident caused the gun to go off, and she was struck by a bullet in the head, the sources said. The victim was rushed to a hospital but died. The investigation is continuing because police want to be sure the story sure the story as told by the boyfriend is correct, the sources said. Police are awaiting gun trace results as part of the ongoing investigation. Folks, this is like getting a dog. If they come out with a Dalmatian movie, right? And I hate to be associating this with a human life and all that, but whenever they come out like with like a new 101 Dalmatians movie, you got all these families running and getting Dalmatian dogs. And if you don't know anything about Dalmatians, and I've never had one, but I've heard as far as dogs go, they're some of the biggest handfuls that you can get. They are just they're nuts. They're crazy. They like to have fun. They're just really hyper dogs. They need a lot of attention. They need, and so what happens is a bunch of people run out and they don't do any research and they go out and buy these Dalmatian puppies, and then they realize a few months in that it's not what they thought. It's too much to handle, and so then you've got a bunch of Dalmatian puppies that are hitting the, and again, this isn't the best comparison in the world, but it's just the one that came into mind. It's the same with firearms, okay? If you're going to get a firearm, and I fully support the Second Amendment, I fully support the right, the natural born, God-given right, okay? It's inalienable. It's not given to you by your country. It's not given to you by a piece of paper. It's given to you because you have the right to defend yourself, and I respect that. But people need to respect common sense. They need to respect what they have, what they hold in their hands. You do never, even if you just clean the weapon and know for a fact it's empty, it is not a toy gun. In fact, when I was around my children, their toy guns, I taught them how to safely hold a gun. Proper trigger safety, finger posture, don't put your finger on that trigger until you are ready to shoot and you intend to shoot, even if it's a water gun, because teaching on things like that carry on to the real thing. And it's important. The lady should have never been waving it around inside that car. That was totally irresponsible and obviously dangerous. That they were both inexperienced, with a firearm, it should not have been loaded. And when I say loaded, I mean one in the chamber, okay? I mean one in the chamber. Just because you have rounds in a magazine and the magazine inserted into the firearm, in my opinion, and there's going to be people that differ, that's not loaded. It's got rounds in it, but it's not loaded. It's not loaded until you pull the slide back and you put one in the chamber. That is a loaded firearm. They should have never had a loaded firearm, and that firearm should have remained on safety until they were ready to shoot an intended target. That's the rules, folks. You don't break the rules. Guns don't accidentally go off. I know it may seem like this one accidentally went off, but no, it did not. The safety was not on. She was playing with it in a moving automobile. That gun didn't just go off. It was led to go off by absolute stupidity. So don't let a story like this make you fear a firearm. Don't let anybody use a story like this against you if you support firearms, because this is a prime example of absolute stupidity. It's as simple as that. I mean, my heart goes out to the family, but what can you do? There's, for some people, there's just not enough warning labels. And I joke around all the time and I say, maybe we need to take the warning labels off of everything and let things just work themselves out. And sometimes I wonder if that couldn't be any more true, because it just doesn't matter. You can't, some people just, I don't know. Who would do this? Who would do that? Who would do that? I mean, I'm assuming, they're supposed to be responsible adults, 26 and 33. What I don't understand, she's waving it around. Why didn't he tell her? Why didn't he pull off the side of the road and tell her to put it away? or what, I could go with a billion what ifs here, but just use common sense, folks. Just use common sense, because this story is going to come back to haunt gun owners, and it might come back to haunt peaceful protesters. Wow. Wow. But I wanted to share that with you. I thought it was important. I thought it was important to give a little lecture on gun safety, although most people listening to the show, I'm sure, already know. So let's move on to a different location. Let's talk about what happened in Ohio. Short video here. Story. It takes a while. I apologize.
Even Police Hollinger. Hi, how are you? Good. I'm sitting in the park at West Boulevard by the West Boulevard Rapid Transit Station. And there was a guy in there with a pistol. It's probably fake, but he's like pointing it at everybody. And where are you at, sir? I'm sitting in the park at West Cudell, West Boulevard by the West Boulevard Rapid Transit Station. So you're at the rapid station? Are you at the rapid station? No, I'm sitting across the street at the park. What's the name of the park? Cudell? Cudell, yes. The guy keeps pulling it in out of his pants. It's probably fake, but you know what? He's scaring the What does he look like? He has a camouflage hat on. Is he black or white? He has a gray coat with black sleeves and gray pants on. Is he black or white? I'm sorry. Is he black or white? He's black. You said a camo jacket and gray pants? No, he has a camouflage hat on. You know what that is? Yeah. Storm. And on his jacket is gray, and he's got black sleeves on it. He's sitting on the swing right now, but he keeps pulling it in and out of his pants and pointing it at people. It's probably a juvenile, Hello? Do you know the guy? No, I do not. Sure. Okay, what's the police, okay? I'm getting ready to leave, but you know what? He's right there by the, the youth center or whatever. And he keeps pulling it in and out of his pants. I don't know if it's real or not. Okay, we'll send a call. Thank you. Thank you. Mm-hmm.
So there you have it. That was the phone call that was made to the police department. So surveillance video is very clear on what took place at a Cleveland playground when a rookie police officer fatally shot a 12-year-old boy brandishing a fake gun, police said Monday. Tamir Rice was shot twice in the torso Saturday afternoon and died at a hospital Sunday morning. Deputy Chief Ed Tamba said the officer, one of the two who responded to a dispatcher's call, was less than 10 feet from Tamir under a gazebo when the confrontation took place. He declined to say if the video matches the officer's description of events, saying a full interview of the officer has not been conducted. Neither he nor Chief Calvin Williams explained why police have not obtained a full statement from the officer. The boy's family declined to view the video, but it was shown to family representatives, Tumba said. Cuyahoga, I believe that's how it's pronounced, County Prosecutor Timothy Magenti said the video would be released, but did not say when. The identities of the officers have not been made public. They were placed on 3 days paid administrative leave and will be on restricted duty when they return, police said. Tumba said the investigation could take 3 months, after which a grand jury, there you go again, will hear the case to decide if charges are warranted. So you can read the rest of the story. The link's down in the About tab. But the thing of it is, stupidity here, once again, on two parts. For one, don't play around, folks. Don't play around. Even if it's a toy gun, a BB gun, I don't care if it's pink with Hello Kitty on it. don't play with it. It's not to be played with. You're asking for trouble. You're asking for something like this to happen. Yes, I know that Ohio is an open carry state. I get that. But people that responsibly open carry don't waver around their guns. You know, if an officer approaches them, they don't reach for the gun. And I haven't seen the video myself. I don't know if that's really what took place when the officers were standing in front of them. I don't know. On the other note, it's a 12-year-old boy. And I do know a 12-year-old can be very capable with a gun. However, a gun that size, because it's been all over social media what the gun looked like. It was a replica BB gun. A gun that size, for one, is going to have enough weight. I doubt a 12-year-old child is going to be a very good shot with it. I'll tell you what. And this goes back to the story, the previous story I did. Just because you go out and you buy a handgun does not make you safe. Okay, you need to train. You need to learn with that handgun. Go out to a range sometime, okay? And just if you haven't really shot before, right? Make sure it's safe to do so, and just pull the gun and start shooting. Try to shoot a target. Try to shoot a target 10 feet away, okay? Just pull the gun out, handgun. I'm talking a handgun, and try to shoot that target that's 10 feet away, a human-sized target. I guarantee you, if you're not very well versed with a firearm, you're going to be lucky to hit that target. It's just a fact. It's just a fact. Okay? And I'm speaking to adults. As an adult, it takes a while. You have to get used to the feel of it. You just have to get used to the firearm. And then every time you switch firearms, you got the whole thing to do over again, because every firearm feels different, shoots different, and the whole 9 yards. So let's get on to the second part of it. Let's say the child did squeeze off one round. A firearm that size is going to have a little bit of recoil. That would have gave the officers plenty of time in that distance to be able to react. They did not have to kill a child. And whatever happened to the tasers that they love to carry around and taser people partying? You know, it's odd. It seems like they only use the tasers on people that are armed with nothing. Well, now they're using the guns on them too. But isn't it just odd how they're just doing this? I mean, it's just every reason they can. Oh, well, I feared for my life. You know, I looked down on my finger, I saw a hangnail, I feared for my life, so I shot the guy 49 times in the chest. You know, I mean, come on, that's about the ridiculousness of it. Wow. Wow. Amazing. Amazing. So anyway, I've got a little story about Power Grid that's in the About tab. You can read that. I'm starting to run a little close on the time that I was wanting to do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go right into the Realist News, play his video about another banker, another dead banker, and then I will close up the show and hurry up and get ready for the grand jury decision. So here is, without further ado, Realist News. You're going to want to hear this one, by the way. Believe me, just stick around and listen to this. Wow. Wow. Another one of these auto-suicide moments. So here you go.
Well, here it is. Once again, another banker dead. Banker found dead with throat slit in apparent suicide. How can you possibly have that happen? And in the next sentence, apparent suicide. No chance of that. A prominent banker was found dead in the tub of his posh downtown apartment with his throat slashed in what detectives suspect is a suicide. Yeah, I see suicides like that all the time. Cut your own neck. Yeah, okay. Sean D. Miller, 42, who traveled the world for Citigroup as one of its top environmental policy experts, sliced his neck and wrists. Neck and wrists with a knife inside his home at 120 Greenwich Street. His body was found by a doorman Tuesday after his boyfriend called building operators and said he was worried for the banker's safety. Miller was last seen on surveillance video getting off an elevator at about 6 p.m. Monday with a mysterious man who was not in his view. The unidentified male was later spotted on camera leaving alone. Investigators still, however, believe the death is a suicide because of the nature of the wounds and the fact that a knife was found under his body. An unidentified man is seen with him on surveillance video and then leaving, seen again by himself, but it's still an apparent suicide. This should let you know that a monkey could have figured out there's no suicide here. This guy was just murdered. And the fact that the police are saying it definitely looks like an apparent suicide. Yeah, we know there was a guy there with him, but because the knife was found under the body, automatic apparent suicide. Yeah, but his neck was slit and his wrist too. Yeah, but the knife was found under his body. Killer didn't take it with him. So apparent suicide. What kind of monkeys do you have running the police department down there? Or are they just doing their job? They got the nod. This was a high-profile target. He had to go run with the fake suicide story. Yes, sir. Just following orders. 10-4. What else could it be? In 2011, Citigroup promoted Miller to an executive position as Managing Director of Environmental and Social Risk Management. He had previously worked for the World Bank, traveled frequently for Citigroup, and was instrumental in designing Equator Principles, which banks widely use for establishing voluntary environmental policies. The bank sent out a note Wednesday informing staff of his death. It is with great sadness that we inform you of the passing of our friend and colleague, Sean Miller, read the note. Did it also mention an unknown person walked in to his building with him, left, and then he's found dead later, and the moronic New York Police Department said it's just a suicide? So that lets you know they're complicit too. Just to let you know how deep that kind of rabbit hole goes of how many places you would think, how many government agencies you would think should be about justice, straight down the line, the rule of law, and are completely not, and are easily bought, paid for, manipulated, whatever, to do something else. Totally against public interest, totally against the law. Speaking of the World Bank, right, in the IMF, prior to Christine Lagarde, the guy's name was Dominique Strauss-Kahn. He was the leading guy of the IMF. And I don't know what he did, but he did something to piss off the club. And then all of a sudden I see this story come out that he's allegedly raped this maid of the hotel he was staying at in New York, and allegations. They locked him up immediately. No evidence, just locked him up immediately. And judge, no bail. Okay, but it's just an allegation at this point. She hasn't been tested. No bail, locked up. And then I'm reading the news on how he should resign. He should resign. Dominique Strauss-Kahn needs to resign. His comment was, no, I'm not resigning. I said, you can find the video. I have it. I said, you mark my words. He done did something to piss off the elite, and that's his punishment. And that judge, who should have easily given him bail on that, did not. I said, mark my words. The second you hear him say the words, I'm stepping down, I'm quitting, etc., from the position I had at the IMF, you will immediately see him released, and more than likely the charges will just be dropped, unfounded, whatever it is, and he's back to normal. Mark my words. That is precisely what happened, and to this date, he is not in trouble. There's no longer anything against him. Nonsense, nonsense, nonsense. And Christine Lagarde took over the reins, as I also predicted when I saw the contenders of who was going to get the spot. They both won it. And I read some of the comments that Christine Lagarde said, and her viewpoint was all about privatization. We give out loans to these countries and places that can't pay them back. Well, then you need to sell off public assets to privately owned corporations, our friends, to pay those loans back. But wait a minute, those are public utilities that the public technically owns that you're going to now sell off to private enterprise who's then going to rape and pillage the public with the new fees that they're going to experience over the coming years that they have no control over because it's no longer a public utility. It is now privately owned. That was her mindset, and she even spoke on it. I said that, mark my words again, is going to be the next head of the IMF. I have this in a video. 2 different videos possibly. I don't remember if it was a single or a double. Because I want to say I found out later that here's the contenders after he stepped down, who's going to take over. And I said, oh, I know who it's going to be. And bingo, that's who it is. So we have the point of this, police department completely corrupt because they found this guy, you know, just run the story of suicide. He was murdered. Obviously, walks in with some unknown man. The man leaves without him. He's dead in the tub with his neck and wrist slit. Oh, yeah, suicide. A child could figure out what just happened. Corruption. How about the judge? How did the judge make that decision on his own behalf, in his own mind? I think I'll just hold this guy without bail on an allegation of rape, no proof. That is always going to lead to bail. No, not this time. This guy's we're going to hold him in jail and with no bail. And the second he says, all right, I stepped down. Okay, you're free on bail. And then, of course, later on, there's no charges. We can't find anything on him anyway, so never mind. Did that judge just coincidentally make that decision? Or was that judge one of these handpicked judge? You didn't vote for him. He was selected by the president or some other body to be a judge, a federal judge or whatever it may be. In other words, part of the club. And you are not in the club, and neither am I. So corruption, fraud, in these very high-level positions within society that we expect and demand work as prescribed. This is law enforcement, do your job. There's laws and rules in this country, follow them. Someone broke them, follow them for the same for everybody. And don't change it and lie for some agenda. And that's exactly what's happening here. So another banker dead, one way or the other. Is it possible that this guy, since he worked for the World Bank, was in talking with that lady, Karen Hughes, who was former attorney at the World Bank and has become a major whistleblower on what's going on there? Maybe they were in talks. Were they friends? Were they communicating? And he time to teach him a lesson? No idea. But they both work there. So another day, another important banker dead. If you had a list of all the bankers that have died in very recent times, it is absolutely mind-boggling how many there are. Every one of the stories, apparent suicide, an apparent suicide. There's probably over 20 this year. If there's over 20 bankers, not just nobodies, but people with status within that banking institution, and they're all dying, and they're all being called a suicide, what are the chances of that? No. They're being killed, so they can't speak, so they can't testify, so they can't do something. That's what this is about. So, are these the kind of people? Because when you hear that big announcement, it's going to come. New World Order, the financial system is terrible, everyone's suffering, we got to go to a New World Order. And if your favorite politicians are out there pushing it, hard as they ever pushed, telling you why it's a good idea, and we need to do this so these things don't happen again. And keep in mind that these murderers and these liars in the police department in New York, right? And the judge, the federal judge, that, you know, all these are the guys. That's the club pushing you and telling you, hey, this is the new thing we need to do. Trust us. And here's the reasons why. Keep in mind, you're going to tell yourself, you guys are a bunch of lying, cheating, unconstitutional murderers, corruption, fraud. And now you're telling me it's in our best interest and you're the expert and we should listen to you. Seems like you got a little track record of murder, deceit, lies, fraud, corruption behind you. So anything out of your mouth that you're pushing, I don't want any part of it. But they're going to make you feel so much financial pain. It's going to be so bad. Not just you here, the whole world. They want the whole world to feel it because the whole world has to be on the same page. New World Order. That you're going to beg them for a solution. Just make the pain stop. And if you're one of those people that did not get gold and silver, either or, again, I prefer silver, you're going to feel some serious pain more than the rest of us. Because those prices are going to go up. And the new system that they're going to put us on is going to be backed by precious metals. And if you don't have them now, why they're cheap, especially, little fire sale going on in recent history here, you're going to be in trouble. I said this a long time ago. You're going to be weathering a storm. This is not a get-rich-quick scheme. It's not going to be in the next couple of years. All of a sudden, we're all rich. No. This was nothing more than protecting yourself with precious metals, financially speaking. Protects your financial livelihood. And as I read and studied more into this, I realized you're going to make a small fortune as a side effect of this, not just skating by with your precious metals. When this all goes down and the price of precious metals skyrocket, you're going to look back and say, yeah, they definitely manipulated it and they put it off for a long time and they were able to really flush out a lot of weak hands. But I held strong and I kept mine. You kept it out of their system. You got a safe, you got precious metals physical in your hand, gold, silver, coins. It's out of their system. They can't do anything. The only thing they can do is change the price temporarily. It's all temporary. So, speaking of which, my next video is going to be more about silver eagles in the U.S. Mint. Because they're slamming the prices and it's not affecting people buying. Matter of fact, people are coming in with a dump truck wanting massive silver eagles. That video's next. Take care.
And that's what I have for you. I will be right back up. Keep an eye open. As soon as they start the announcement live, I will be covering it live. On that note, I will see you in a moment. May God bless you. May He walk with you. I love you all. Wow. Get ready for a long, long night. I'll see you soon.